I absolutely. I get to use my golf cart. All right, folks. Thank you for joining. Stay tuned for the CFCS meeting. And Mike will, as usual,
Oh,
Mike will always have some really good stuff.
make me
Make
a
you the
host.
host.
Yes.
Yep, make you the host. If I dropped out, you would automatically become host anyway. But let's see.
And I'm
It's
gonna, as
me.
soon as that happens, I'm gonna make Dick Vogel co-host. Sweet.
Okay, you're the host now, so I can go away and it won't bother anything. And nice seeing everybody. Thank you. And Mike, take it away.
Okay, let me make Dick co-host here. Okay. And during our presentation, if we get to a point where any one of you wants to share your screen and show us something that our discussions, I'll make you a co-host so that you can do it. So I just have to minimize a few things on my end. Um, Let me go ahead and do the same thing Huey did. Share. So this is the Central Florida Computer Society main meeting for October. And we are more or less going to continue some of the discussions that started in the WinSig, especially when it comes to using Microsoft accounts, Windows 10 Essential Security updates, um, things along those lines that might interest you, especially if you're going to keep Microsoft Windows in one variant or another active. And along the way, we may talk about other things like perhaps switching to Linux or um, things that you're more, interested in. So this month's is more like our old Tech Six used to be. We're going to talk about a lot of technology subjects, and then we will open the floor and anybody can ask questions, help desk kinds of questions, or talk about things that you've done either in your own computer or for your user groups. So you're looking at our website, www.cfcs.org, with or without the www. And if you ever have a question about what we are currently doing and you forget how to get on our BBS, for example, which is run on Discord, it's documented here on this website. Kind of easy to remember, centralfloridacomputersociety.org, cfcs.org. And if you don't know what I'm talking about when I talk about a Discord BBS, I'm going to be referring to it through a good portion of today's presentation. And the way you get to it, if you don't have an account with Discord, you go to Discord and set one up, log in and password. You come back to this page on your browser and you click on this invitation link. This invitation link was just changed yesterday, if I remember correctly. It's usually good for 7 days. And if you remember this about 6 days from now and you say, it's not working, give it another day and we replace this every week for security purposes.
Excuse me.
And please turn off your microphones if you can, if you got some other noise going on in the background or need to clear your throat. Okay, so all of our meetings,
Oh, sorry,
even including Huey's, are archived on our YouTube channel. So if you want to see past WinSigs, past main meetings, and even older society meetings, including a year and a half's worth of Linux SIGs, they're all there. And it's at youtube.com at Central Florida Computer Society playlists. They're there. And Huey did talk about how to get on his newsletter and also talked about where he archives all of the WinSig meetings. So that's all done at huey.net. And occasionally I will actually send out an email to those people that have registered with me to be on our social club Google group list. So if you're not now getting notices and you would like to get them, here is a generic social club address that you can just send me an email, give me your email and your name, and I will add you to the group that gets this. Okay. So, Windows 11. We talked about it for quite a bit today in the WinSig, and I've got some personal opinions about what Microsoft has been doing. We all know that their operating systems are usually good for about 10 years. And even today, I can still take an old computer that's got Windows 7 on it. I can still get on the internet. I can still browse. I can still do some of the things that the software that's on that old computer can do. So we're well past 10 years, but they were pushing to get everybody to go from Windows 7 to Windows 8. And then you'll probably remember they went to Windows 8.1. And then they were pushing people to get off of 8.1 and go into 10. Now, when we went to 10, they didn't really say, well, you really need a new computer, and we're not going to let you on to 10 unless you do. But some of us found out that Windows 10 wasn't too happy with an old computer that was originally designed to run on Windows 7 or Vista, for example, would really run slow. And so we sort of learned the hard way, well, okay, it's 10-year-old computer, 12-year-old computer, it's time, wait for the sales in November, Black Friday, whatever, Amazon Prime days, and get a new computer. Go to Costco, go to, Best Buy, get yourself a new computer. But in my personal opinion, Microsoft, for whatever their reasons are, decided that Windows 11 was going to require, in the majority, a new computer to run. And the only way they could do that is put restrictions on what you could load Windows 11 on. And you can run a health check on your computer and see whether your computer, can accept Windows 11 or not. And that's done under Windows Update. You just run a health check. It'll download an app and it'll say, yep, you can, or no, you can't, because you don't have a security chip, or you don't have the right CPU, or you don't have enough memory. But in my opinion, and the opinion of many other gurus that are out there that do publish YouTube videos, in my opinion, Microsoft made the wrong decision. They've alienated a lot of people. We're saying, I got a perfectly good 8-year-old computer. It runs just fine. Why are you preventing me from putting Windows 11 on it? And I remember Bob G telling us, who is a very prolific author of presentations on YouTube and Tech for Senior, that he one day left his computer on overnight. Windows 10 computer, never expected it to qualify for 11. And because he was on the early update program with Microsoft, Windows 11 was on and it was running just fine. And I think it still is today. So why that's the case, I know Bob Farney's been playing with that too. So I just basically said, okay, I want to go and see if I can't document a whole bunch of videos. And let's see if I can get it here. And I wanted to do this on the Central Florida Computer Society's Discord BBS. So this is what we set up to be our primary social media platform in CFCS instead of using Facebook, for example. And at the time we set this up back in 2021 or 22, we said, let's make this look kind of like our old BBSs did. So we can have, subjects in the left-hand column, and then we can have posts and links and discussions. And under the Windows channel, we have got, if I'll just scroll back through here, you can see we have got hundreds of posts that have more or less chronologically kept up with all the things that have become controversial with Windows over the last 6 months or so. And I said, I'm seeing a lot of these videos now in YouTube channels about how to get around the restrictions that Microsoft has been putting on us for what we can do with our computers, like okay, no more local accounts to install Windows 11. You got to have an admin account. You got to be signed in. Yes, you can have local accounts after you create it and make it a secondary account on your computer. But if you're going to put a new version of Windows 11 on your computer, you're going to have a Microsoft account and it's going to have to log in. That's what Microsoft set up. It's not that their operating system doesn't support that. It's that they're just not letting you do it. So I wanted to use AI and say, here are a bunch of YouTube videos. Please compare the methods of installing Windows 11 on unsupported hardware in these YouTube videos. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to copy this to my clipboard, and as soon as I stop sharing my screen, I will put these links in chat for you, especially if you're not on our Discord, so that you can look at these too and make up your own minds. But Gemini did a pretty good job. They said that, there's 4 videos that I've posted, and they demonstrate 3 distinct methods for installing Windows 11 on unsupported hardware. Microsoft says you can't do this, but people are successful and they're documenting it. So how did they do it? Well, there's actually 3 methods of these 4 authors. And method 1, they call it an in-place upgrade via a command or script. In Linux, we use scripts quite a bit, although scripts are still available in Windows. So in one of these methods, they use a script, and they call it a type 2 fix or script. This is done from the command prompt. And what is it bypassing? It will bypass the hardware checks for the TPM chip, security chip, the CPU type and speed, and whether or not your BIOS are set for secure boot. All things that Microsoft has said, you got to have this or we're not going to let you have Windows 11. This method gets past all those, okay? The second method, which I particularly like and will focus on a little bit more, is to use a program called Rufus. And Rufus is bootable media creation. That is, you get an image or an ISO of the Windows 11 installation. You create your own installation USB drive. Used to be we would put it on a DVD, but it's gotten so big you really have to use a USB. And there's settings in Rufus that let you bypass the things that Microsoft says you must have. And it works. Okay. The third method is what's called the OOBE, and that's the original installation what is it? Online account requirements, mandatory online account, and it uses a command. So they have detailed analysis of these methods and how to do this. And again, the videos walk you through it. So what I'm going to do when I send out the video of today's presentation is I'm going to take a link to this Gemini report and put it in there so that you get all these details as to how they do it. And then in addition, they duplicate, here's those videos that they got the information from. So this is something relatively new, by the way, for Gemini, and I know ChatGPT is doing this now too. You can actually get a summary of any YouTube video by just putting in the link to the video into Gemini or ChatGPT or some of the other AIs and just say, give me a summary or give me an analysis. But you can also say, hey, compare it to this one too, and tell me the differences. So this is relatively new for me to have done that. Okay, so what am I talking about? Since I particularly favor Rufus, here is the Rufus website, rufusie.ie. I don't think you need EN for English after it, but that's the link the way it came up. And Rufus gives you some information about it. It's obviously going to create a bootable USB drive, and it's going to have some dialog boxes that you're going to want to know what to put in these dialog boxes in order to create it. So I'm going to go back again, and I'm going to go down to the Rufus screen captures that I did. And this is from the video on Rufus. And as I said, it walks you through everything. So what he's showing you is the interface with Rufus is going to ask you what you're going to make. And by default, it's going to be a USB drive that your system detects. And in my case, or in his case, it detected it as drive letter G. And they're saying that it should be at least 8 gigabytes in size. And I recommend 16 just to have some extra space. And the prices of 16s aren't that much more now than 8s anyway. And it doesn't have to be USB 3 because you're not doing an extensive amount of data transferring. You can if you want to pay for it, but it's, pick up a pack of 10 or something like that, and have some extras. And you're going to be able to select what you are actually going to boot, and you're going to use the drop-down menu to find where you downloaded the ISO. So when you go to Microsoft.com and then search on Windows 11 download, and by the way, you can do this on Windows 10 too. You can also search for Windows 10 and say, I want to get installation media for either Windows 11 or Windows 10. And Rufus will go get that for you if you wish, because here it says select it. I've already done it, but it also will let you download it because it knows where to get it. Then it's going to ask you the partition scheme of your computer. And I think I've got that in another. Let me go to the next. And let's see, I guess I got to go back and select the next one. Sorry. I've lost it. Where'd you go? Here we go. Let's go back. No. I think I hit an X. Yes, I hit an X. Okay. Wrong X. Okay. It's going to show you a screen. Let's see if I can make that bigger. There we go. That you can customize the Windows installation experience. Now, you don't get this if you just run the normal installation of Windows 10 or Windows 11. And you don't get this if you're going to do a clean boot or you're going to do an upgrade. Either way. But Rufus lets you control this. Rufus grabs a hold of the installation routines and modifies them. So what can I customize? First of all, we know that Windows 11 has a requirement for at least 4 gigabytes of RAM or more. Gets rid of that. Although I still want to at least have 4 or more. It gets rid of the requirement to have secure boot. Now, Windows wants secure boot in your BIOS, and probably you're going to leave that in there anyway. Okay, but some of us who are dual booting and using Linux don't want secure boot. So for us, and Linux doesn't need it to run. So for us, the concept of secure boot is sort of it's what is it? An anachronism, okay? Because it's really not making our operating system any more secure. The internal workings of the Linux operating system has its own security, and they update it on a regular basis. It doesn't depend on the fact that your computer happens to have a secure boot routine. So anyway, if I remove the requirement, but I still have it, no problem. And then the big requirement is to have the TPM security chip. And that can be software or hardware, because some people are finding out that it's actually in the BIOS and you can turn it on or turn it off, and it's not actually a chip. I have a friend who actually had a TPM chip mounted in a socket on his motherboard. It wasn't soldered, it was socketed in. But it was the old TPM-1. I think it was a Dell. And he called Dell's tech support and said, yeah, we can send you a TPM2 chip. So he did. It still didn't work to make his computer accessible. So this removes the requirement. Second one, we heard from Huey today that Microsoft is basically requiring an online Microsoft account to install Windows 11. And it's probably not a bad idea, because if you're upgrading, you want everything from your previous version to transfer over, and Microsoft backs that up for you. But there are people who don't want that. All they want is local, period. They don't want a Microsoft account. So you can remove the requirement and still have it. But if you choose to check this box when you install Windows 11, that requirement will not be there. And it's up to you whether in the installation process you actually type in a Microsoft account. If you wish to have just a local account, one of the nice things about Rufus is it makes a self-running install. Those of you who have installed your own Windows in the past know you're usually sitting at the keyboard and it's asking a whole bunch of questions, and you put in answers, and then you sit there and wait and wait and wait and wait. So Rufus actually has what's called a self-install capability. So if you're going to do a local account only, you can in fact check this box and then click here and actually put a username in, so that will automatically fill in the blank as it's being installed, and you don't have to be at your computer, although I'd probably want to still sit and watch it. Regional options to the same value as this users. This also lets the auto run. It's not going to ask you where you are. It's going to know from where you're starting that you're in the United States, if that's where you are, or if you're in Canada, that's where you are, or if you're in the UK or Germany, wherever you are, Australia. So if you check this button, it's going to set the regional options the same as the user that you've just put in up here. There's a whole bunch of privacy questions that are asked on the original, even on Windows 10 when you first install. And there's all kinds of articles, YouTube videos about how you can go out and modify those settings. So if you wish to have those settings already modified for you at the time of installation, you can say, I don't want any data collection. Don't even ask me the questions. Just don't enable them. So that's kind of nice. BitLocker encryption. By default, I understand with Windows 11, I've not done a raw unattended Windows 11 install. So it's my understanding that by default, BitLocker is now turned on in Windows 11. That means you're going to have your entire drive encrypted. Good if somebody hacks in, I suppose, but also bad if for some reason your computer gets messed up. You want to take the hard drive out, put it in a USB dock, and connect to another computer and try to recover some of the information that's on there. Without the BitLocker key, you can't get that data again. It's NASA grade encryption, or what, DoD grade encryption. So at installation, why not disable it? And again, check that button, it's going to be disabled. Later on, if you want to encrypt your hard drive, fine, you can do that after the fact. I have never encrypted my entire hard drive. I've got some folders that are encrypted with software. And what else? Use Windows CA 2023 signed bootloaders. In the video that I got this from, he says he put a link in the description of the video to explain that. I don't think I've got a compatible target PC, and I don't know what it is, so I'm not going to tell him to use it. So I uncheck that. Okay, so we'll go back to the next one on this. They're saying essentially skip the requirement for that Microsoft has been preventing, and use a local user account. That's going to be part of the advantage. and they're going back in again. They're showing an 8 gig capacity. If you get 16 if you like. What else are they doing here? The nice thing about Rufus is it does support older computers. Now, I don't think I would want to put Windows 11 on a very old computer. I might want to put 10 on an old, say a 10-year-old computer. But there's two types of partitioning schemes. One is called MBR for main boot record, and the other is GPT. And most of our computers these days use GPT for partition formatting. This is the default that comes up. And when you choose that, it's just going to press on and use it as the default. It's going to tell you the label that's going to be on the USB drive. So this is the label that'll show up, and it's going to make an NTFS bootable USB drive. When it is done, this is what the file manager is going to show. And here's let's see if I can make this bigger. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so in the file manager, you will see the USB drive sitting down here with the same label. And this is what will boot up if you want to do a complete fresh installation of Windows 11 or Windows 10 from scratch. Okay, so if that's what you're going to do, you would just close this screen and boot from the USB. But if you're upgrading so that you want to keep all of your programs and settings the way they were for whatever is on the computer now, then what you would do is double click on setup.exe while it's sitting here mounted on your local disk. And Windows installation will now start. And I'm not going through a whole bunch of this, but the video that this came from does go through that and walks you through the setup as well. Now, I have heard several people say, why should you not do this? And it sort of makes sense. Like, no guarantees that Microsoft won't know that the computer that got Windows 11 in, because you're going to want to get it authorized with the serial number, most likely. You're going to be prompted to do it. So at some time in the future that Microsoft might say, oh, they did this kind of installation of Windows 11, we're not going to let them get updates anymore. Could happen, hasn't happened. And Rufus and others are keeping track of this. And obviously we talked about spy, counter spy. They're keeping their methods up to date so that if you did have to do a reinstall, you can do it. So the only thing I would say to you is if you're starting to do this as an update, make sure that you've done a full image backup that you can restore at some time in the future. But I don't think Microsoft, once you've set up Windows 11 this way, is going to prevent you from using your computer, prevent you, say, from going online, or prevent you from getting 365 if that's what you want to get at a later date. But no guarantees. So, as a techie myself, this is the way I will do it if I need to. But and the other ways that are in these other videos are also ways that people are testing out and trying. And I know, Bob, are you still with us? Farney?
Yes, sir. I'm still here.
Okay. Just a few words on what you did to get the latest Windows 11 25 H2 to install the routine that you use.
So I have tested multiple versions of what Mike is referring to. You don't always Rufus is an easy way to do it. So I do recall it's been a while since I've used Rufus. I've got a laptop that I purchased in 2013, so it's unsupported. So this is still working. But Microsoft is blocking, as Mike said, a bunch of these opportunities that you had 2 or 3 weeks ago. And I just let me shift gears for a moment. I did a search on ChatGPT, and it said in the latest Windows 11 Insider builds, Microsoft is blocking all known methods for creating a local account. Now, that may not hold true if you go to this website um, in uh, in Discord, you might try a couple of those and see if it'll work for you. Um, I created a Microsoft account, so I wasn't concerned about it. And it doesn't block me from installing versions of Windows 11. So I have, yesterday I downloaded 25H2, which is the latest version, um, from this one of the links on the Discord website for Windows, and it worked just fine. So I've done multiple, and I haven't had any issues because this is a dual boot system with Linux on it. I think Mike favors Linux right now, and which is fine. Linux Mint 22.2, but I would think if you wanted to try Linux Mint and your hard drive was big enough, there's a link in Discord where the guy can show you how to set up your partitions where it doesn't really mess with your bootloader. So I've done this many times and it hasn't messed with my bootloader. And as Mike said, they could change this in the future and not allow us to get any updates. I'm not too worried about it because I don't have anything important on this computer.
I was about to say, what have you got on your main computer that has all your important stuff?
Well, I have 3 other computers, 2 laptops and a desktop, and they both are fine. They have a high enough CPU. They comply with TPM 2.0, so there's no issues. So I can get all the updates. I will tell you this: I was impatient to get 25H2 update, and I went and signed up for the preview. Unless you have a need to look at the Microsoft preview and get these updates early, I wouldn't do it, because once you sign up, I can't get out of it unless I want to format my hard drives. It's terrible. And once you sign in for that, it propagates to all your other computers too.
It's on the same account, yeah.
Yeah, it's on the same account. So I wish I'd have known that, but I can't change it now.
Okay. I did not put anything together specifically for this OOB, whatever the abbreviation is and stands for.
It doesn't work anymore.
But they're basically, and Huey is correct, as of the time that he started looking at this, there wasn't a way to get in. But this version of Rufus, which I just put up on the screen, you'll notice there was a checkbox, and that bypasses that requirement. So they figured out in the last week how to get around what Microsoft is trying to block. And Chris Titus Tech, if I'm not mistaken, has also come out with a way to get around that. So spy counter spy. Microsoft will probably have their programmers working hard to try to block the people that have unblocked them in the past. And if they've really set their mind to it to force you to have the Microsoft account, they're going to do it, you know. And we know that Windows 12, in fact, if I'm not mistaken, it was Tim that posted on Discord today, you know, Windows 12 is down the pike somewhere, and I wouldn't put it past them to require even, you know, greater hardware requirements and the requirement to have an account in order to install it. So they're getting very, very, very proprietary. Now, Tim, if you wanted to make any comments about what you posted.
I did see a few articles because I go through a lot of material, and basically the census of a lot of connected technicians have been getting information that seems to indicate that down the road with 12, when it gets released, will require an Intel Ultra CPU or an AMD Ryzen equivalent, both of which have NPUs installed. Any older computer that has no NPU chip installed in the CPU theoretically would not be able to install and run 12 unless there's somebody works out some kind of a bypass like Rufus has done with 11.
And that's the kind of the way that Microsoft has gone. We know from 10 to 11 that they wanted to put restrictions on. So it wouldn't surprise me at all that they would then say, hey, the future is AI PCs. Then, Qualcomm's had an AI PC out now, or Qualcomm based anyway, in their CPUs for a year. If I remember correctly, it was a year ago, June, July, that they first came out with their what they called AI PCs. So I tend to agree with you. That may be the direction they're going in. The other, oh, well, Walter, you've got your hand up. Let me go ahead and go to you.
Yeah, Mike, I got three short things to say. One, I believe OOBE is out of box experience.
There you go. Thank you.
But it's
I
not,
just posted
I'm sorry, if you edit your registry to do away with that, it doesn't work. I did it yesterday.
Except the
Well, maybe Rufus is
yeah,
fixed it, but
yeah, they say they
I
have.
tried to do other alternatives in the registry that I was following people online, and to try to block that and reboot, it didn't work.
Yeah, the next thing I was going to say is in the last issue of Windows, the Twit podcast, Windows Weekly, they mentioned that there are some PCs out there that have an onboard TPM chip or whatever it is that will do 2.0, but you need a BIOS update in order to use it. So in some cases, you may want to check and see if you need a BIOS update because you may already have what you need and not have to go through all this stuff.
That is true.
The third thing is I just posted a link in the chat on how to install Windows 11 with a local account if anybody's interested in that.
Okay. I'll
The,
go ahead, Tim.
the AMD processors are the ones that you're referring to. They have a chip inside the CPU chip. It does require a proper BIOS update, and then you have to go in and depending on the version of BIOS that board is taking, you have one or two settings that turn on the TPM2 emulation is what it is. And so it gives you the ability to have it without having a TPM chip on the motherboard of a system.
Okay. Thank you, Tim. The third item,
The AMD also has a PSP, which does essentially the same thing as the TPM.
Yep. And AMD has the equivalent of an NPU capability too in their high-end processors. And they've been advertising that now. A lot of the mini computer folks have been advertising that have the high-end AMD chips.
And they haven't had the same problems Huey had with his Intel.
Yeah, that's true. The third thing, which is related, and that is those of you who want to stay with Windows 10, we've been talking about extended security updates, ESU, almost a year now, I guess. And initially, we didn't know what Microsoft was going to do other than they were going to charge something. And then they came out and said, okay, we're going to charge $30. And that's $30 is going to be for the home user. They had a price for schools and they had a price for businesses and corporations. And then they said that's going to be for 1 year only. And then somewhere in that time between the 1 year only and now, they said, well, it'll probably double next year, but no guarantees. And we don't know if we'll even allow it beyond that. So if it's $30 this year, it's going to be $60 next year. Then they came out with the program that most of us have seen now. If you still have Windows 10 and you've gone to the update manager and you have all the latest 10 updates installed and you've rebooted, and then you get an offer to enroll in the ESU program. And up until, I'm going to say, a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks ago, if you clicked on, yes, I want to enroll in ESU, you got the 3 offers that Microsoft was offering then. Number 1, $30 flat. Number 2, if you've been accumulating Microsoft reward points, a lot of people have and don't know it because you haven't gone to your account and looked at it to see if you're getting rewards for doing different things. But if you have accumulated 1,000 points, they were going to give you that ESU for free. And then number 3, at that time, it was back up your system using Microsoft OneDrive. And we got lots of feedback, especially in the forums and in YouTube. I don't want, and we saw it today, I don't want a single one of my files up there on OneDrive. I don't want to.
Yeah, you can also do it with just backing up your settings.
Well, that's
don't
what
need
I
all
was,
that other.
that's what I was coming to. So today is Sunday. I'm going to say basically a week ago, Monday. That's kind of where we were. And my wife's computer, I plan on putting Linux on, but I just wasn't ready to do it because I've got a lot of things on my schedule here, busier than when I was working. And so I said, all right, I'll pay the $30. What the hell? So I went to her computer. It had a bunch of Windows 10 updates to install, started them, walked away, came back, rebooted, more updates, walked away, came back. It was about 2 hours or so of updates. And then there was the, hey, we're about to expire on the 14th. Do you wish to enroll on our ESU program? And I said, yeah, let's do that. So now keep in mind, I had not gone to her Microsoft account, but I guess she was logged in. I had not synchronized anything, but we were logged in. And it said right away, oh, congratulations. Your computer settings are synchronized and therefore you can enroll for free. Okay. Click. Did its thing, little twirly thing, and it says, congratulations, you're enrolled for security updates. I said, all right, let's reboot and see if I still am enrolled. Rebooted. I was still enrolled. I said, I wonder what happens if I sign out of her account. So I went to her Microsoft account on the web. I signed out. I closed the browser, rebooted Windows, came back up, went to Windows Update, and it still said you're enrolled for ESU, for extended security updates. So I was not signed in at the time, but it said that we are. That's the way the computer sits right now. So on the 14th or the 15th, probably 15th, I'll go and repeat that procedure, check for updates and see if it still says I'm signed in and see if I still have ESU. Bob?
Yeah, I just did an AI search for you to bolster what you've been saying. So they say the first year is $30, like you said. Extending the security update doubles to $60 on the second year, and the third year is $120.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
They've gone
It
to
doubles
that.
each year.
Yeah.
yeah, you guys.
So,
I don't think you'll be able
The
to see
key,
this.
one of the videos, it's on Discord, and I have not put it in the documentation for this one. More reason, you notice I keep saying Discord, Discord, come join us. But at any rate, one of the videos was by a gentleman who's in the European Union, very disgruntled, and he says, "I'm leaving Microsoft. These people, they're just not coordinating. They don't have the same policy around the world." But he said, for the EU, he is finding out that some countries, and he didn't say which, are getting the ESUs for free, which implies that Microsoft's got a switch somewhere, and it can do some testing and see what country you're in and whether or not the ESU is going to be free for you. Now, in our case, we're US. They said our settings are synchronized. I don't ever remember asking to synchronize settings. My wife does not have OneDrive on her computer. It's been uninstalled ever since we went to Windows 10 on it. So somehow just the mere being logged into the Microsoft account, not logging in or creating it for the first time, but just being logged in, they said your settings are synchronized. So we didn't have to go to OneDrive and only do the synchronization of the settings, which was recommended by another author. So as of today, at any rate, if you've got a computer, it's got Windows 10 on it, maybe you have not logged into your Microsoft account in a while. If you wish to do your latest Windows 10 updates before the 14th hits us in 2 days, try that. See if you can get ESU for free. And then if you don't want to remain logged in, log back out, come back in a week or so and see if the ESU is still active.
So how do you verify that you get these 10 licenses along with the ESU?
And you had asked that before about
Yeah.
other
You can then
computers
transfer one to another computer on your
It must be those computers logged into the same account, and therefore it's keeping track of how many times you do it. The reason I say that is I used to be a Microsoft service professional or something like that back in the mid 90s. And you paid $150, and for that you got 10 licenses of every Microsoft product that they sold, including Windows of the different variants. And they kept track by the numbers of the license numbers for the installations, how many you had. And when I did go over 10 for one of them, it said, "I'm sorry, this is your 11th attempt, and so you've already used up your license codes for this product." So that they probably had that capability in-house all along. Because when you activate your version of Windows, that license code is now activated. You go to activate it on another computer, they're going to tell you this, you've got a previous computer that's been activated with this. So it's probably the same some way. But for now, if somebody today tries it, you'll probably be able to put ESU on and it won't cost you anything. At least it was the last time I checked. All right, I've taken up a lot of time. We can go for another 20 minutes or so. Anybody have some hot and heavy help desk things that you'd like to ask questions of our assembled hosts here? Jolyn.
Well, I just want to thank you guys for the Discord. It's something I'm still unfamiliar with, but having gone ahead and downloaded it to my phone, I'm now getting the notifications, and it really I'm enjoying learning from you guys even more than I expected to. So thank you very much. And the only other thing, the BitLocker situation, it's only on the pro versions of Windows. It's not on Windows home version. So those of us that use the home version don't have to worry about getting BitLocked. But
Well,
it worked.
and the reminder is, if you've got it, it's in the settings.
Yes.
Go get your
Yes.
what do they
Key.
call it?
Codes.
Your code for BitLock.
Yeah, I have them for now. All the systems at the computer club, they're all, I have them. I'm the resource center director, so I kind of make sure everything is good on the Windows side. Our VP is the Apple side, and keeping them up to date is so important. So it's been very helpful.
And that way, if you do have a crash and you do have to take your hard drive or your M2 or whatever, put it in a USB adapter, and it was BitLocked, then you've got the code to unlock it and get the information off of that external hard drive.
It's
Walter.
definitely worth looking into if you're on the pro version.
Yep.
You
Walter.
know anybody that's ever
Oh.
tried that?
No? You want to try it, Steve?
I
Let us
have.
know.
I was just wondering if it actually does work.
Yeah, I had a computer I had to do it twice on.
Good.
The first time I didn't have the keys, but you were able to generate them somehow. The second time I made sure I had a screenshot of the keys. And the issue I've got at the moment is I'm using Edge, logged into a Microsoft account. If I click the Copilot button in Edge, I get a message that says, "It's not you, it's me. Something went wrong. I probably just need time to refresh." The only way I've figured out to get rid of that is to sign out of Edge.
Huh. And do you have
I signed out
Copilot
of
down
Edge,
in
it
your
works.
system tray?
It came out all by itself about 2 days ago. Now I can click Edge, it's in my taskbar and it works.
Yeah.
But the one that's built into Edge doesn't work.
That's interesting.
I tried a couple fixes on YouTube and so far none of them have worked.
In Edge is up to date.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the first thing I checked.
Yeah.
I recall something, because I see too many things. I recall something popping up on YouTube last night when I was just browsing about Edge crashing or Edge needing an update or something along those lines. It could be related. I'm not sure.
Yeah, apparently there is a bug in the latest update to Edge. I don't know what it is. I haven't read far enough in, but it's.
I checked about an hour ago and it says it's up to date.
I just checked into Edge and went to the Copilot, and it came up just fine.
Okay. Uninstall, reinstall? I don't know. Not sure.
Well, it's built into Windows. Actually, I did that had me uninstall some extensions.
Hmm.
I uninstalled everything but BitLocker and still had the problem.
Okay. Tom Hirsch.
Hi, thanks for Mike and Huey and everyone for a really informative session. I have a couple of questions. One is about the Windows 11 update. I have some computers that I'm deliberately keeping on Windows 10 because if I upgrade them, my Adobe Premiere Elements video software will no longer function. I have a newer version of Adobe Premiere Elements on my Windows 11 computers, but the newer version is inferior to the older version. So one of my Windows 10 computers started to download and install Windows 11. So I don't want it to do that. How can I block that download and installation from proceeding?
So the question is, how do you stop it? If all you did is leave, well, I was going to say, if all he did is leave Windows Update by closing it, it's doing it in the background. I don't know that it would actually go into the installation because it's interactive in your case. So I don't know that it would actually start installing Windows 11 without you, clicking and saying I'm in the US and this is the keyboard and all the rest of that stuff. It would just put it in cache awaiting you doing that.
And is
Uh,
there a way I can find where that file is and delete
that's
it?
that's a good question. That's a good question for AI. Um,
I wonder if Bob thought the same thing before he ended up with Windows 11 on his.
yeah, that's right. Bob G did it overnight, and it just wouldn't. And in
Well,
his case, it was
he did it. It did it by itself.
it
Yeah.
did it by itself, right? I know you can go in on settings and delay a certain number of days, but that's before the process is actually started. Okay, Tom, I'm going to ask you the key question that everybody is supposed to be asked when a question like this comes up. Have you got an image backup? And if so, how old is it?
I don't have an image backup. I have Carbonite backing up all my files, but no, I don't have an image backup. Maybe I need to pursue that.
Yeah, an
Well,
image of the whole system. Yeah.
yeah. Well, unfortunately, this will affect your other computers, but having the image backup now will just keep you, right where you are at the moment. I would say ChatGPT or Gemini or Copilot, speak to it just as you did to us. I have a Windows 10 computer. I had not wanted to install Windows 11, but it's already started. How can I prevent the Windows 11 installation from proceeding? And see if it gives you some information. And if the information is kind of like in point for point and paragraph form, you can then say, please expand and give me a step-by-step procedure on what to do. And it may give you a registry entry that it needs to modify, or it may give you a folder that it tells you to delete files from, and see if that helps.
All right, that's a good idea. My other question is involves a lot of spam. I get a lot every week. I get scores of spam emails which come from firebaseapp.com email domains, which is one of the Google brands. I sent a message to Google, but that's not that never accomplishes anything. Complaining about this, is there any way that uh, that I can reach somebody to try to halt this bombardment of spams?
What email are you using? Gmail?
No, I have a Juno email. Well, I do have a Gmail address, but my primary email is Juno, and I just get all these things. I report all of these as spam, but all they do is change, a few letters or a word in front of the Firebase app thing, and that's a whole nother, email address. So,
Does Juno have filters? Can you filter
I can,
things to go into folders?
yeah, I can pursue that, but the real thing is to try to stop it at its source.
Well,
And Google is profiting off of all this nonsense, and apparently doesn't care that some of its users are being harmed. The Gmail does have a way you can report malicious email, and I report almost every day. I report, malicious emails I get from Gmail addresses, but I don't know of any way to do that for the Firebase app.
okay, so, but you're not using a Firebase app to open. You're saying I'm getting it from firebase.com as the
Yeah,
originate.
Firebase app is the domain,
Oh, the
the
domain.
email address
Okay.
domain that these are coming from,
Okay.
but they're coming from hundreds of different prefixes before the Firebase app.
So the key is to get that email filtered. Does Juno give you an auto forwarding capability?
Yes, I can certainly auto forward emails. Yes.
So you could put in a condition to auto forward anything with asterisk dot or asterisk at firebase.app to Gmail. And then in Gmail, you put a filter in that says anything that's coming in that originated from asterisk.firebase.app goes to my trash folder.
Mhm.
You don't and don't even, open it. I'm more or less I'm doing that. I used to use Gmail almost exclusively and had thousands and thousands of emails a day. So I had set up all kinds of filters. When I went to Proton Mail, I basically said, okay, exclusively forward everything to my Proton Mail so I can read it all. And I get the benefit of having the filters in Gmail hit that email first and get rid of probably 75% of it. And then my Proton Mail, where I do actually read, filters the rest of it, including the report spam and block the addressee. So I have some better controls over it in Proton Mail.
All right, thank you for your suggestions and for another good meeting.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Mr. Farney?
Hey, sir, is that a paid email service?
Proton?
No. Proton is, but the one that,
Firebase, Juno? No, I think Juno's free. Ted Goodwin, that used to be his big. And you used to actually, just like AOL, you used to get the little discs on the front of the electronics magazines for Juno. And it was dial-up way back in the day.
yeah, I switched from Gmail to Fast Mail, and they have support. That's why I was curious. I could reach out to support if I had any issues. But I just thought I'd ask.
Yeah. But if he's got an unconditional forward for a filter, that gets it out of his Juno mail so he never sees it. And then when it's coming into Google, you can put a filter in to automatically delete it and report it as well. So, anyone else? Okay, good session. Once again, I'm going to go back to, if you want the meeting chat, don't forget to bring it up, 3 dots in the upper right, and click Save Chat. And actually, it's going to get you Huey's WinSig chat too, since we're on the same meeting ID. Okay, so what I want to do again is just share. Okay, so for those of you not on Discord again, CFCS.org, look for this paragraph and go to Discord, set up an account. If you already got an account, go to this invitation. And you should then come in, and at that point, you will see, that was something I didn't need to do. You will see, let's close that. Yeah, I didn't want to close the whole thing. Let's see if I can get back out of this. There we go. Close that. You will come to there we go, administration. The announcements channel is where everybody starts. This is, once you've come in, you may only see announcements until you actually get onto it. So you will see the welcome to the BBS. At the very top, you will see a Head and Shoulders. So this is what you'll actually see. If you want to see who's on, you click the Head and Shoulders and it shows everybody that's currently on and all of the other people that have at one time or another registered. And as you come on and start browsing, the rest of these channels will activate. And you'll then see if there's new information, you'll see the channel's got a highlight, like this new post that Tim put in about browsers. And Cybersecurity Month, we have some special articles that are posting in there, especially some of these fraud alerts you want to be aware of. And then we just finished up with the Amazon Prime deals, but here's all those things that you really should have bought on Prime Day, and we had coverage telling you about that. If you've got something of your own you want to sell, it's there. And if you want a little humor, We've got some political cartoons for you to look at. So I'm going to close this. And I'm going to stop sharing. And I'm going to stop recording.